We're almost at the end. 2 more videos. I'm beginning to feel a little sad because it's such a pleasure to teach you. And in these last 2 videos, there'll be a lot of, I don't want to say political language or political debate, but the question of whether we use a masculine pronoun or a feminine pronoun or both is somewhat political or somewhat stylistic, you could say. And I'm certainly going to give you my opinion. But I'm not young. I'm not so old, but I'm not so young. And so I certainly have an opinion. But it's worth, when you talk to other English teachers or other native speakers, what I present to you, you can get their opinion and then you make your own decision. But it's sort of interesting because, you know, languages evolve and they evolve within a culture. And, you know, the issue of feminism or within the United States or in England, which are the 2 countries I'm most familiar with, is certainly present and has been present while I've grown up. And you can see the reflection of it in the language. So we're going to look at that today. So let's get started. While I say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And of course, you know, my name is Anna Shine, and it is my pleasure to teach you this again. So let's get started. So we'll do a bit more on pronouns and possessive adjectives, and you'll see it's sort of an interesting topic. So as always, I'll try and stand in front of the board and talk and then move aside and read. So what we're going to look at here before you read is his, her, and their. And it is somewhat political in a way, or cultural. Should we say cultural instead of political? We'll keep it calm. So let me read each sentence to you and explain the choices, and you'll see what's happening and how it reflects the culture that we find ourselves in the United States and in the UK. All right? So, which of these 4 sentences, which of the following sentences do you think is best? They are all regularly used. So that's the issue. They're all okay, depending on where you are culturally, we'll say. So an astronaut, isn't that beautiful? An astronaut prepares hard for his first spacewalk. Grammatically, it is fine. An astronaut prepares hard for her first spacewalk. Grammatically, again, it is fine. An astronaut prepares hard for her first spacewalk. Yes, grammatically, it is fine. An astronaut prepares hard for their first spacewalk. Not grammatically fine, but certainly regularly used. So common. Let's look at them one at a time. So even though number 4 is not correct grammatically, it's very, very, very common, perhaps the most common. Not easy for an English teacher to say that. Let's look at the next slide. So here's number 1 and 2. An astronaut prepares hard for his or for her. The only difference is his and her. No other difference. If the astronaut is a man, we would obviously use the possessive adjective his. His spacewalk. He's a man. I think this is a woman, if I remember correctly. I can't see, but I remember looking at it and thinking it was a woman. An astronaut prepares hard for her first spacewalk. If the astronaut is a woman, we would obviously use the possessive adjective her. So those are easy. If it's a man, we use his. If it's a woman, we use her. If we know, it's easy. If we know. So the question comes, what if we don't know if it's a man or a woman? Here we go. But what happens if we don't know if the astronaut is a man or a woman? What pronoun should we use then? So if we know, this is no problem. Easy. Let's look if we don't know. If we don't know. So this is the cultural debate, the cultural issue. In truth, there is a debate. This is what I was talking about at the beginning. What to do if you don't know if the subject, if the astronaut is a man or a woman, male or female. So let me tell you what I do. And I was taught a sort of traditional formal English. We use the masculine pronoun. If you don't know, you just say he or him or his, black and white. That's what we do. Now, so that's me as an English teacher, I think is best, both in spoken English and in written English. But not many people don't agree with me. So I'm just giving you my opinion as an English teacher. You might have an English teacher who says something different. Let's look. Number 1 above, a masculine possessive adjective has been the traditional way of speaking and writing. So that's how I was raised until relatively recently. It is also what NESE's founder supports. So a more traditional approach. This one, number 3, the astronaut greatly enjoyed his/her spacewalk. Many people trying to be equal on the feminism scale, male, female, will say his/hers, his/her spacewalk. I think personally as an English teacher, it's heavy to say his/her. They also say his or her. I'm going to read this to you, his or her, which is even heavier to say. But they don't want to say his because they feel it's not appropriate in today's culture. They don't want to say her because it's equally not appropriate. And so they say his/her or his or her. Again, I think personally, I myself, for emphasis, use the masculine, because that is what was traditionally used for reading, for writing and speaking. You can disagree, you can do what you want, but I just want you to know. So more formally or in more, no, not even in academic circles, it will be mixed. You will see both. And you just have to see what the environment you're working in or communicating in, what is used, and you can use something similar. And that's the way it is. So I will teach you all of it, and you decide. You decide, as I always say. So let's read this. Number 3 above is what some people consider best. And this is what they choose to use for written English and for spoken English. However, when speaking, saying his/her, some people even say his or her, it can be heavy and clumsy. It can be a mouthful. A mouthful. I say it and then I see it. Therefore, some people write like this. They write like this, but they even speak differently. So they might write his/her or his or her, but when they speak, they say something else. So I just use his, but some people use his/her or his or her and then say something else. Let's look. The astronauts singular enjoyed their plural spacewalk. And I have to admit that it is so common to speak like this that I hear it all the time. And sometimes I've heard myself say it, I have to admit, because it is so common for spoken English. I would never write it. But sometimes when I'm impersonally using it, I've heard myself say it. Like, oh my gosh, what has happened to me? Miss English teacher. Let's read it. As much as it horrifies English teachers, and it horrifies English teachers, many people now, albeit informally, speak like this. And in fact, it is now very common. It is really very common. So common that it's almost where English teachers are not horrified. They're still horrified, but you don't want to write like that. as your English improves and you learn the music of the language, you will decide which of the 4 choices above is best for you. It'll also be the environment in which you find yourself. So if you're just tip-tapping away on emails, you will probably start, I hate to say it, you will probably start using this. But it's because what you hear, and it's just normal that our language changes. So our young people, my children, use an English that's quite different than my English. Or some of their vocabulary is different. The language changes. It evolves. However, as number 4 clearly combines a singular noun, the astronaut, with a plural possessive adjective, thus horrifying English teachers everywhere, please, please never write like this. And again, if you're tip-tapping away in an informal email, you can write like that. But if it's professional or academic or something that's not just a tip-tip email to a friend, you shouldn't write like this. If you want to use grammatically correct English. If you don't care, well, that's different. She looks horrified. That's what I feel when I see it. All right, let's continue. Here's a simple way to avoid the problem, although most people don't. There is a simple way to avoid it. Whenever possible, make the sentence plural. So you have the astronaut greatly enjoyed their spacewalk. He's just one astronaut, just me all alone. You could say the astronauts greatly enjoyed their spacewalk. And then it's grammatically correct. But what happens if you know it's only one astronaut? That's the problem. So if it's a plural group of astronauts, you're good. Because this is the correct form to use. It's correct. But if there is really just one astronaut all alone, it's tricky. There are times, however, when, from a content perspective, a plural does not work. Let's say there was only one astronaut walking through space. That one. And it is times like this that number 4 is used. The astronaut greatly enjoyed their spacewalk. So I would say the astronaut greatly enjoyed his spacewalk. But someone will say to me, Anna Shine, it could be a woman. You can't say that. Maybe it's a woman. And that's true. So more and more people are saying this. The astronaut greatly enjoyed their spacewalk. I have to admit it, as an English teacher, people are saying this. And occasionally, I, Miss English teacher, actually say it. Anyway, so you see the options. You can decide. You will be exposed to English. You can discuss it with your class, discuss it with your teacher. Many more people will say, oh, don't worry about it. No problem. That's okay. You have to do what is right for you. Okay? Let's go to the next slide. You will most likely also hear statements similar to the following. It's exactly the same. I'm going to give you some more examples. I have to read it because I can't give you the examples without looking at it. Note the same grammar, the there with the singular, as in the previous astronaut example. In each of these examples, the subjects are singular, like the astronaut. But the possessive adjective is plural, just like the astronaut. So we did the astronaut greatly enjoyed their spacewalk. That's the one we just did, and I had a heart attack. Someone, that's singular. Just left their, same thing. Cell phone, British English mobile phone, or mobile, or cell. So let me make that clear. American English is cell phone or cell. British English is mobile phone or just mobile. Someone just left their cell phone on that bench. Singular, plural. Anyone can be kind to their, plural, singular, plural, neighbors. American spelling, British spelling. What are we going to do? Life is life. An evolving language is an evolving language. The curriculum at the New England School of English is spiral, and the English language is evolving. What are English teachers going to do? You will probably, I hate to say it, eventually speak like this. Because if you hear something enough, that's what music is all about, isn't it? The music of the language. If you hear it enough, you're going to say it, and you will say it. It will sound normal. However, for written English, please, not tip-tapping for emails for friends, but for normal written English, please, please, please remember to write, someone just left his, that's what I would say, or if you want, his or her cell phone on the bench, on that bench. So I, Anna Shine, would write, someone just left his cell phone on that bench. I would also write, anyone can be kind to his neighbors. So you can write what I would write. I will never know. You can write this, or informally, you can write this. But I am guessing that before too long, you will speak like this, because that's what people do. What is an English teacher to do? Let's look at the next slide. Let's try and change the subject so I'm not so stressed. Oh, there's more of it. Oh my gosh. Someone and anyone, these pronouns are called indefinite pronouns. Indefinite. It's not a specific person. It's indefinite. So we looked at these two examples that gave me a heart attack. Well, this is correct, but with the there. Pronouns such as someone or anyone are called indefinite pronouns, and they're super useful. They're very useful to know. We use them when we're not specifically referring to a person or thing. So someone left their cell phone. Oh, see, look, I said it. Someone left their cell phone. Someone just left his cell phone. Not specific. A person. As you know, they are singular. Singular, singular. And so they take a singular verb if you use the correct grammar. All right? It's up to you. You heard I used it. It happens, even to the best of us. Let's look at the next slide. Here's some other indefinite pronouns. I'm just going to read them out to you, and I'll show you a couple of examples. Anybody, this is when we refer to people, and this is when we refer to things. Anybody, anyone, anything. Everybody, everyone, everything. So even if it's all, everybody, everyone, everything, it's singular. Singular. Nobody, no one, nothing. Nothing. Somebody, someone, something. So let's look at some examples. Does anybody, singular, third person singular, does anybody know the way to San Jose? There was, I will sing for you again. Do you know the way to San Jose? I think if you're my age, you might know that song, but that was so rushed and so badly sung, you might not recognize it. There was another song, anything you can do, I can do better. So anything you can do, I can do better. It's also singular, but you can't see it here because it's a modal. And we know modals don't change their forms. We don't conjugate with third person singular. Nobody is a negative, so be careful. Nobody is here yet is perfect English. Perfect. There's our yet at the end. Do you remember? Nobody is here yet. I have nothing to do. That's the negative. So you cannot. It is not evolving. You cannot have two negatives in one sentence. That is not evolving. No, no, no. Spoken English, no. Written English, no. Nobody isn't here yet is terrible. You cannot say isn't. You could say no one is here yet. This is not, right? Isn't. You cannot have two negatives in one sentence. No, no, no. I don't have nothing to do. Ah! That's a negative. That's a negative. You cannot have two negatives in one sentence. Typical student mistakes. And you will hear native speakers using two negatives in one sentence. No, 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 no. No evolution towards this, at least so far. All right, let's look at the practice exercises. You can put the video on pause and try and do these. And I will check them with you on the next slide. Okay? Okay, let's see how you did. A scientist often, do you see the T is silent? It's not often, often. Don't say the T. Write the T, but don't say it. A scientist often hopes that, now we're looking for perfect, or at least decent English, that his, I would say his discovery, but anyway, you can say his, her, or just her discovery is significant. There is nothing here for us to do. You cannot have the double negative. No one, remember it's singular. It's a third person singular. No one eats at that restaurant anymore. Everything, singular, is boring in his class. Therefore, he is bored. The class is boring. He is bored. The house is empty. Nobody is in it. That's correct. Somebody is bringing, now, everyone will say their children to work with them. It is how people will speak. You will hear it. But beautiful, beautiful English, somebody is bringing his or her children to work with him or her. But in general, you will hear their and them. You will. And you will use it just as I do a little bit from time to time. But I never, never, never write it. Never. Okay, you ready for the idioms? Let's look. I love these pictures. He thinks that he is a genius. He is always tooting his own horn or playing his own piano. Now you should remember this because a few videos back there was that wonderful photo of the man smiling and playing a tuba or a woodwind instrument. I can't remember which one, but he had a wonderful smile on his face. And we said blowing his own horn. So you can say blowing your own horn or tooting your own horn. So a horn is just any woodwind, almost any woodwind instrument. So it means he talks about how wonderful he is. He talks about how great he is. He thinks he is better than anyone else. That's tooting your own horn, except you speak it. He has his finger in the air or his nose in the air. Look at the photo. His nose in the air. It means he thinks he's superior. We do this. He thinks he's superior, snob. So we finished another video. I look forward to teaching you again on the last video in level 6. Thank you so much. Oh, what a beautiful color. We have finished the lesson. Please do the practice exercises, and I will teach you again on the next video. Thank you. Bye.